Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's the Untitled Theme Entertainment Design Show. I'm Patrick, and of course, this is not Andy. Hey, Trevor.
Definitely not Andy. Doing pretty well.
Andy has the night off tonight, so we're gonna be redoing our thing here. Well, welcome everybody. We have a great guest. We're gonna be talking about theme entertainment influencers. A big breakdown of that with Natalie and Marco in a little bit. But Trevor, you're a producer of the show, but why don't you give a little intro to you so people watching can get to know you a little bit?
Sure thing. So just me and a real quick pitch. Been working in film and TV for over 15 years, I think 17 years now, and in a lot of different capacities. And then about 6 years ago, started getting into themed entertainment. Worked at Disney R&D, worked at Thinkwell for a bit, and now I'm actually working on the Cheaper by the Dozen reboot. So still just bouncing back and forth between industries after tour managing for a comedian actually last year. So I guess whatever the industry, still just producing, and then came on board here at TETV a few months ago and thought I'd step in and try actually being in front of the camera this week. So go easy on me.
All right, will do. Look at the camera, and you're doing great. Before we get started, I want to ask a very important question. What is going on your back wall with the, it looks like there's a conspiracy. Would you mind? Let's go ahead and zoom in on camera 2.
Sure. Here we go.
What we got here.
There we go. That is,
yeah.
There we are. That is a cork board. That's it's a narrative universe based on Disney park attractions. So basically exactly what Ron Moore is doing right now for Disney Plus. So yeah, trying to get in touch with that guy about that. But I've been working on that for about 6 years.
Wow, 6 years. Well, looks cool. Looks very impressive. Thank you for showing us around. So you're a producer, hosting the show. So we do have some theme park news this week. Big headlines. Disney made an announcement in the name of diversity and inclusion, which is I'm a big fan. We have relaxed restrictions on tattoos, no more gendered costuming or uniforms. They call them costumes there, and also no gendered restrictions on hair or necklaces or jewelry. That's the actual name of what I'm trying to say. Makeup, all that kind of stuff, which is there you go. This is fantastic. I know that this is affecting a lot of people out there for comfort in a lot of ways. So that hit the news. Trevor, any thoughts? Are you strongly against this? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I think it's great. I've got at least one friend who's really kind of mad at herself because she's got a lot of tattoos and she used to have to make a very concerted effort to keep them covered up for work. Mm-hmm. And she actually was furloughed and then left the company just because like the role that they were offering her wasn't the one she wanted to go with. But then now she's kind of pissed because she's like, I could have stuck around and all the tattoos I have would have been completely okay.
Yeah.
So she's a little disappointed about that. But this whole thing is just a huge step in the right direction, obviously.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like the amount of people that are working in the parks who have to wear long sleeves pants in the summers. People don't realize that they're among us and they're just fine. They're just fine people. There's no reason to worry at all. It is all good. Tattoos are not a defining factor at all. So and I thought that some of the outfits were looking really good. Like, the guy with the black nails at Haunted Mansion. So I think there's a lot of room for people to get even more in character with it, which is cool, which is fun.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That'd be really curious to see now what happens. Because if you can do that, you can kind of, like the black nail polish. I like that. Okay. Yeah, I'm even more excited about it.
Get excited, folks. It's real. It's happening. And then, so Disneyland, their reservations they've been live, I think, maybe last week, but I believe there's a lot of availability. If you want to pay for a one-day ticket and go to Disneyland, Disney California Adventure, that is available. I think some Saturdays are starting to sell out, but the Disneyland is returning, and it's, my family members that work at Disneyland, they've been training, getting things back up because it's quite an operation to get back up and running. So that's exciting. Should be, I think it's next or a couple weeks from now, end of the month.
Yeah, 30th.
Six Flags reopened, and yeah, I think it's a pretty exciting stuff. The industry is starting to get back. There's a lot of opportunities out there as well. So we're hoping that things keep going. Trevor, what do you think about the? What do you think?
Well, I think the closest thing, or not the closest thing, the soonest thing I think I'm going to do is, now that Universal Studios Hollywood is open, and that's like 10 minutes from my apartment, is I'm going to pop on over there. I think it's really cool that opened up with not exactly 2 new attractions, but the fact that like Jurassic World got that additional refurb to it, renovation to it, to add the second whatever the name of that dinosaur is in there. Yeah, Dominus. Yeah. That one, and then Secret Life of Pets is open now, which I checked out a ride through of it, and it looks pretty cool. I'm just excited to get back in there in general.
Yeah, and if anybody's watching, would like to follow our TikTok. We're on TikTok now. It is our most popular platform. So kudos. I'm looking at the TikTok right now. It's just here. I'll pull it up real. Okay, that's a whole other. TikTok, folks. We got views, folks. We got views and likes. Follow us right now. We actually have some footage of the Secret Lives of Pets off the leash, Jurassic World. Of course, there's our Muppet theme park and some other cool stuff. So yeah, if you're on TikTok, it's themed EXP TV was our handle, and it's like our most popular platform, which is funny. So check it out there. Well, speaking of influencers and TikTok, why don't we bring Natalie and Marco on board?
Yeah.
Talk about themed entertainment. Hello.
Boy,
Hello,
that was
everybody.
that was a great segue. I just have to say that was real quick. My last name is spelled with an E at the end. That was a wonderful segue.
Thank you. Well, Natalie, friend of the show, been on the show at least once, maybe more. I can't keep track at this point. No, yeah, you've been on a couple times. Cool. And then we have Marco, who is new to TETV. Welcome, Marco. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, how'd you get looped in? No. Well, Marco, why don't you both give yourself a little bit of an intro and however you want, and you have a whole deck. Let's go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. Natalie, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm Natalie Nielsen. Hello. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm a project manager at On Track Themes currently. I'm pivoting towards creative direction and creative leadership. And in my spare time, I am the content creator and co-writer on the absurd Disney blog, Disnerland. And then that's it. That's for me. And then Marco, I actually met Marco because of Disnerland. We just kind of connected via the social media, and that's honestly why we're here. So Marco, if you could talk about yourself for a little bit.
Yeah. I'm Marco Bongiorno. It's my name and a greeting as well. I'm currently in between jobs, but in my spare time, I'm the team leader and kind of the person behind the Pizza Planet truck. At least like it's a working replica of the Pizza Planet truck. Been in it had about 10 years or so. So I'm just fan of theme parks, fan of building, making things. Yeah.
Fantastic. Real quick, what is your history with theme parks?
I grew up going to Disneyland a lot, and I worked at Disneyland for nearly a decade as a PhotoPass photographer.
Copy that. Mm-hmm. Great. So yeah, we're here to talk about themed entertainment influencers, but really we're trying to kind of like pivot it into a more specific discussion, and we'll get into that once we get into the deck, which we should get into the deck. So let's get into the deck. Yes. Themed entertainment influencers brought to you by me and Marco.
Yay.
So first off, the disclaimer, we are not experts on this subject. The discussion is going to be coming from our perspective and based on our background, and by no means is it definitive or full bore. It's just a good little jumping off point based on what we know.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So we'll mostly be focusing on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. This is us. You already saw us. You already heard us talk. Let's keep moving. So what is a themed entertainment influencer? It's a complicated name. What does influencer mean anyway? I mean, next slide. We don't know. We don't really know. I think personal opinion, I don't like the word influencer because I think it pigeonholes all creators on the internet. But in terms of looking at it more broadly, we know that themed entertainment influencers, we know where they are. They're on the internet, and we know what they do. They make things, right? They're making all sorts of different kinds of things. Go to the next slide. And these are the different kinds of platforms. These are the different kinds of things that at least me and Marco have kind of conversed and decided these 6 categories. So YouTubers, lifestyle bloggers, merch makers, just general memes, just all the memes, podcasters, and then there's Twitter. So what did I have to say about this? You know, I think something I want to establish early on. We want this to be a positive discussion because I think there can be a lot of heated emotions about fan reactions and, you know, fan behavior on different platforms and such. And that's, if we're a part of this industry, more or less, and we're fans, we know about that. And I think we want to keep this positive. So, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place right now.
No,
and I think
notices you're doing great.
Thank you. So I think more than anything, I think it's important to look at this as an ecosystem, right? Each one of these is doing something. It may not be entirely positive, but they're all contributing to the overall mood of the themed entertainment discussion in like the fan community online. But I think, go to the next slide. What we really want to focus on is we want to focus the discussion on those that use their platform to expand on the stories. I think it can be fairly easy to categorize like the consumers and the creators, and they're both valid in what they do. It's all on what you want to spend your energy doing. And I think we want to focus our time talking today about those that those that take their fandom and use that as a jumping off point to do more things, to make things. And that leads into merch makers. That's where me and Marco have kind of met. That's where we've met also in kind of that ecosystem. And yeah, I think it's super interesting. And that's what we want to talk about. So let's go to the next slide. So I'm going to turn this back to Marco. Marco, what influenced you with your online project with the Pizza Planet truck?
So my friends and I used to make short films in middle school and high school. And as high school happens, you kind of, spread apart. You don't hang out as much. So we were like, okay, let's make prank videos. That's something, instead of like 3 days to make like a short film. And we started doing prank videos, and then it kind of got to this point where we're like, we don't just want to like do mean-spirited pranks on people. We never did anything like heinous or anything, but we're like, there's got to be something a little more positive on this. And we actually were like influenced surprisingly heavily. I look back on it on Improv Everywhere, on how they would do like these little joyful moments that they would film where if you were participating in it, it was fun. If you were witnessing it, it is also fun. And so that's where we kind of the jumping off point for some of the pop culture projects we did, which eventually led into the Pizza Planet truck. Originally, the truck was going to be built as like a deliver a pizza, film a video, and call it a day. And the more momentum we built, the more crew that joined in, we were like, there's something going on. We could go on a road trip. We could, where's Pixar? Oh, it's up in the Bay Area. That'd be just a fun road trip to do. And it bloomed from there. And part of that, the necessity to make merch came from, it's an old truck. It's characteristically kind of rattles and shakes. And we ultimately had to start doing merch because of that. But we didn't just want to do what was already available in the parks. We wanted to kind of bounce off of things. And so we've got shirts, we've got buttons, we've got pins, we've got license plate frames. And we specifically wanted to be like, we don't want to do the same design on 5 things. We don't want to do something that's already been made at the parks. And so we wanted to expand on the story in that, like, I Break for Pizza Planet, that's a direct reference to a license plate frame that appears in one of the shorts. And it hadn't been made, and we're like, let's do it. Let's try it, And it's been going decently well for about 9-10 years now.
Fantastic. So then do you guys like pop around just different events just on your own, or do people have to book you, or how do you guys operate?
A little bit of both. At first we were kind of just going wherever we felt. And then as word spread, like people would call us, we would have like Hulu, we would do like corporate parties and stuff like that. We've been brought in on a couple occasions for Disney events. The last big event we did was a Toy Story, a Pixar night, California Adventure.
Oh, nice.
we used to do like kind of some party stops, like birthday parties and stuff, but I'm kind of dialing back on that just to take a break from it, and then focus on other things. But right now we're just kind of, I guess you could say we're in hypersleep, kind of a hibernation because of the pandemic and everything.
I have a question for you. When you've created this Pizza Planet truck, and I'm sure, when you were starting out, you're kind of like, well, is Disney going to shut me down? Is Pixar going to shut me down? And then you get a call from Disney and Pixar. Like, what's that kind of feel? How's that go? How's that?
It was, what was kind of crazy was the initial intent, I took down the initial blog post, but the way we phrased it is we're like, we're going to go on a road trip. And people are like, are you going to try getting into Pixar? And we're like, we're going to park outside, take a photo, and leave before security's called. And I think something about that kind of self-deprecating way we described it probably showed that like we weren't crazy or as crazy as we could be. I mean, it is pretty crazy what we did. But yeah, we were like 9 months into the project. We weren't even like finished with everything. We got an email and they're like, we see what you're doing. Tell us when you're done and we'll follow up. And it was this whole thing where like we had 2 people running our email inbox, and my friend was like blowing up my phone at work, and he's like, I need you to check the email right now. And he's like, I don't know if this is a prank. I don't know if someone's playing an incredibly terrible joke. And I'm looking at him like, seems legit. It's really neat. It's kind of a full circle thing where like we watch these movies, we grew up on them, and then we put together this thing, and we eventually met a lot of the production design team and a lot of the folks who worked on the original truck, and they're like, oh, I remember this detail. I'm like, we have that detail. And they're like, how'd you like the toolbox in the back and the tennis ball and the license plate matches the film. We somehow were able to get that. Like no one had registered a car with those specific digits. And it's really neat. It's really interesting to think about how it started as something very small, and now it's this freight train of ideas is kind of chugging along. And it kind of blows your mind when you get to have these opportunities to meet people who like are inspired by the thing that you made that was inspired by the thing that they made. And it's very, very meta, but it's also very humbling. I'd say.
What were you mentioned like other projects that had kind of led up to this one. What were those ones that you had started with that kind of brought this momentum?
I used to work at a Boy Scout summer camp, and we used to just have we had a yard full of like spare, broken wood, and we would just make things out of it. So we had this huge piece of wood that we cut out to look like My Neighbor Totoro. And we're like, we're just going to carry this around and walk around we had like 12 people with them. It was very, very like not planned out well, but we went to like our local beach town area, and we stood there on the pier, and we walked about 2 blocks carrying this like really lightweight wood thing. We teamed up with a local gallery, and we're like, can we put this in your window for like an hour and just see what happens? And they're like, sure. They were pretty chill about it. And then we came to pick it up an hour later, and they're like, whatever you want to do next, tell us about it, because we've had more people come into this gallery asking what this thing is in the window than we had the entire time. So like 2 months later, we made the Peanuts psychiatrist booth out of spare wood. And I was like, okay, we need to stop making things out of wood. We need to do something a little more ambitious. We need to move out of the Stone Age and into the Industrial Revolution. So we thought, okay, a car and a movie car. And there's a whole ecosystem of movie cars and movie replicas. And the Toy Story kind of came out of around the time when we were working on it. Toy Story 3 had just come out. And I remember I was like, okay, well, I feel like that feels right. Like, it's a Toyota. They'll run forever. They're probably inexpensive to get. Like, I'll learn to drive stick shift, and like all these things over, like all these thoughts that just didn't really stop the momentum. Was really fun. But it was a lot of the videos were just funny ideas that we just wanted to see happen. Like one that never got. One that didn't get done because we couldn't film it properly. When you're at the Mickey and Friends parking structure, and there's the different escalators, and the tallest escalator is like 5 stories.
Yeah.
to the left and right of the handrails, there's a smooth metal track that goes all the way down to the bottom. And I had the bright idea to try to see what would happen if you sent a Hot Wheels car down it. And we learned that a Hot Wheels car just spins out on bare metal. So then I was in Cub Scouts. So we made a Pinewood Derby car to send down it because it was effectively a huge ramp. And that was back when like you could walk to Mickey and Friends without like, you walk from the street to Mickey and Friends and whatnot. And I remember like there was a parking attendant and he looked at us. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "We're just going to do something real quick. And as soon as we're done, we'll leave." And he's like, "Okay." And we like sent the car down. And yeah, it was like really, really lax. It was like 2010, I think. And we sent the car down and it like, you know, flies really far. My friend caught it in a baseball glove. And one of that employee and another employee were just standing there and they go, "That's great. That was really funny. We need you to leave." And we're like, "Great." And we just, but we couldn't, like, it was going so fast, you couldn't get any footage of it. And it was just like thinking of ideas and coming up with a way to bring that into the world. Something we worked on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, so that's, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're.
I was going to say, so you built an empire. Natalie, do you want to share a little bit about your empire?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay.
A friend of mine just sent me a text with an exclamation point of Disnerland. So the audience is ready for it.
Well, let's talk about it. Can we actually have the slide up? Yeah, the image kind of guides me. So yeah, I am the what did I say? Gosh, I said I was the creator and co-writer of Disnerland. How do I encapsulate Disnerland? I mean, like, there's a lot of fans, which is lovely. But how I like to think of it, it's authentic, chaotic joy. So it's good-natured. It's this thing that encapsulates my love of the Disney parks and absurdist, dada, just like weirdness, you know? It's funny for me. Disnerland started as an accident. It actually started as a typo. It was like 5 years ago, I think. I was at work and I was just typing into Google and I went to type Walt Disney and I accidentally typed Wald Disner. So Wald Disner with a D and an R. And it made me laugh. And this happens a bit where I'll just do a thing and I chuckle and then I'm like, oh, interesting. And in this instance, I was like, okay, well, let's write this down because this made me really laugh. So I did that. I had it on my little note board. And then a little bit later, my now fiance and a friend of ours, actually Andy, who's the host of this show, they came into my office and they were like, they pointed at the boards like, "What's that?" And pointed at Walt Disner. And I was like, "Oh, it's just this funny thing." And then Andy said like, "Walt Disner," in this like very specific voice. And we all laughed and we're like, "Oh, interesting." So then the next on that weekend, we all went to Disneyland and we just started making up weird names of attractions that would be like, if Walt Disner had a Disneyland, what would, Hyperspace Mountain be at the time? It'd be Hooper Space Murphy. What would be Haunted Mansion? It'd be Herman Munster. And it was just like this really free flowing, like just fun. And we just kept laughing all day. And after some time after that, we made a book for Andy where we photoshopped a bunch of posters and gave it to him like a Shutterfly book for Christmas. And then like and we did, we were only going to do like 5. And then at a certain point I was like, we should do all of them. And then we basically did. So we did all that photoshopping and then, excuse me. And then that was December. The next year in January or February 2017 or 2016, I don't remember exactly. I was like, we should do a Tumblr or like post these on Facebook or Instagram. These are fun. They make me laugh. Why not? So we just started and then people responded. I mean, like when you have a very specific sense of humor that is very strange, it's very easy to assume that nobody else has this way of thinking. Nobody else thinks the way you do. And what's really lovely that I've discovered and I learned about the internet, and I think what inspired this discussion especially, is just how vast this ecosystem of the internet is, and how varied the interests are, and where like if you have just the right thing, it's going to hit the right amount of people, and you're going to have like an audience to do just the weirdest stuff that like, you know, the average, or like, you know, Disney itself would not do anything like this, because this is just, it's diluting the brand and blah, 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 whatever. But the fact that the internet allows a platform to do such a weird thing and it to have a response, you know, that's been a wonderful discovery for me. And it's just been fun. You know, I think what's been interesting for me, because most of this is just photoshopping images, right? So on the slide, you can see the Haunted Mansion, and then there's a little bit of a Herman Munster. And you just, again, to give you an idea, it's the same graphic, same fonts, same colors, all that, but you just change it. So there's, you know, you start with familiarity. You start with, oh yeah, if you're a Disney fan, you know that green, you know that orange font, you know all of that. But then to just kind of throw the curveball of like the weird name, you know, it's that's the joke, right? And that's what it is. And then also in addition to that, there's a purple square there with Wald, where it started out with just translating Walt Disney quotes into like weird worded versions of them. But then at a certain point you ran out of quotes. So I just started making up stuff that was encouraging and, you know, good hearted, just like coming out of the mouth of a presumed madman. So, you know, yeah. And then from there, making merch for me really came down to trying to translate the experience of experiencing the social media aspect, which is just images. You're used to these images and you're subverting that expectation of an image. So for me, with the merch, it's subverting the expectation of like a physical thing, you know? So I have like the e-tickets, which was like, that was one of the first things me and May did. My fiance, she helps a lot out a lot with Disnerland. We made those. That was one of our first pieces of merch that we did. And we just passed those out at Dapper Day, like 2017, just to spread the word. Did it work? We have no idea, but it was fun making this thing, you know, this object, the pins and everything. And I'm also working on maps, like actual, like recreating the first Disneyland map as a Disneyland map, and like thinking about paperweight and like what it feels like in your hand. Does it feel like just something printed on glossy paper in your inkjet, or is it like this thing that feels real? This sense of like feeling like this is real, but just completely subverting your expectation. And that's, you know, I seem to have a different explanation. Yeah, exactly. I have a different explanation for this every time I talk about this, but that also lends to the nature of this project. It's just this weird thing, and I love it. This is fun. It's probably the most satisfying thing, like art project that I've done, for sure.
So at what point did Disney contact you?
They've never contacted me.
No, fair enough.
I will say what's been really great, and what Marco was saying, like meeting the people that inspired you. Like early on, I've met so many Imagineers that have reached out to me personally and just to say like, hey, we love this. Everyone in the office loves this. And, you know, I'm in the industry, and I was in the industry when I started this, but that still is really cool. It's just like, wow, they're like printing these out in their cubicles. Oh my God. Like there's a level of excitement to like breach that, you know, imagined chasm between fandom and creator. But, you know, that chasm doesn't exist. It's an imagined thing. I will say I have had a lot of takedowns on TeePublic, but that's more just TeePublic's covering their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your process? So now, you know, if you're coming up with your clever marketing and what's your creative process like? Or if you talk about it later, that's fine. Just was curious.
No. This is the time to talk about it. You know, it's the thing about it is it's most like I'd say the creative process is just, you know, getting a pad of paper and getting your pen, writing the name of the attraction at the top. And I like to date it because I like to keep records. And then I just start free writing. And I go off of like what, you know, things that sound like something like Pringle Muncher, which was for People Mover. That was just me just writing things that sounded like People Mover. And I just hit Pringle Muncher. And then, you know, just like at the very beginning, if it makes me laugh, or if I'm working with May and it makes us laugh, that's it. Like that's the one, you know, because that's the metric. That's the point of this. If it doesn't make you laugh, it's like you're missing the mark. And it might resonate, but even still. And you know, for me, it's so funny because I'm non-binary and I like to like feel like I'm very free thinking, but I'm also very attached to like systems. So even with this, I find myself kind of like finding little like, well, people, it's not like for example, like the captions for everything are written with a very specific kind of, not broken English, but it definitely is kind of, you know, a reduced English. And I think it's easy to assume it's like caveman talk. And it's not caveman talk. And I've already in my brain, I'm like, it's not that. You're better than just caveman talk. It's something else, you know, or whatever. But I mean, really, to answer your question, it is the ultimate act of just like letting go and letting creativity flow through you, because that's what made it successful to begin with.
So it looks like we have looks like a young professional as a comment. Dave Bob or Mrs. Cobb. Well, Disneyland is that it's really not really a parody. It doesn't make fun of Disneyland at all. It's just its own weird that's Dadaist. Take that.
Dadaist.
Okay. That both celebrates and hilariously distorts it. Yeah. Any comment on that of just that what you're doing and how it's maybe it's its own thing like that? That's
yeah.
great.
Oh, and thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. It's true. I think one of the things that's successful about Disneyland is that it's not mean-spirited. It is done in a way to celebrate the reference material. You know, I think it's easy to, and I'll see this sometimes in comments. I'll see this when people repost things from Disneyland. It can be taken as if we're taking down Disney, and it's like, okay, look. Like I will say the main thing that I'm focusing on with Disneyland is that I am, especially with Walt Disney and like, you know, just like everything is kind of trying to emphasize and magnify the mentality of Walt Disney, the creative mentality of Walt Disney, in terms of how I personally have like, you know, interpreted through like all of the biographies I've watched, to just experiencing just Disneyland as a whole and just watching him and all that sort of stuff. Just it's very optimistic. It's very encouraging. It's very, you know, it's go get 'em. It's like, you know, turn of the last century Americana, but like through Dada lens, you know, that's it. And I think with that, I don't want to make fun of it because I love it. I just like to make people think about it in a different way, or maybe think about it more clearly through the lens of nostalgia, you know, the distortion that can happen. You know, I can go on and on, but you know, I think that's what it is. That's what I would respond to with that.
Cool. Well, are there any other examples of this out in the world?
You know, Patrick, there are. So I think, just to kind of bring it back, I think the thing that we're focusing on is our creators, mainly on Instagram, that are taking the stories and the brands that can be experienced in the parks and other experiences, and they emphasize them. They either expand them out to like, you know, experiencing an item that you wouldn't think would exist, and there it is, or making their own thing, kind of carving out their own niche and making their own little community. Yeah. So with this one, Marco, if you could take it away on this. Oh no, Marco.
Oh, you might be muted.
There you are.
Hello. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Who's This and What's This is a really neat brand in that they there's a neat graphic design edge to it too. It's not just like taking the silhouette of a castle and putting it in a nonsensical situation of like I always use like the wine moms, like the group shirts that you see. There's like a whole story behind it. Like, for example, like Tiana's palace bag, like that would probably be the art style that would be used within the Princess and the Frog world. And like there's this level of detail in that kind of graphic design of like, they're not just going to find clip art of a steamship. They're going to see and like try to coax it in the period, kind of the period appropriate styling and like the colors are going to match and whatnot. But like Magic Carpet Airlines, like every kid who flew on a plane when they were little remembers getting a little badge from the pilot on whatever airline you happen to be on, and it's like a twofold bit of nostalgia where it's like when you were on an airplane you'd want that, and when you were a kid you remember when Genie made the airline announcement. And it's a lot of merchandise where it's for properties you would want to have merchandise for. Lucky Cat Cafe, there really wasn't a big push for Big Hero 6 merch, and this is like it's specific enough that a fan will get it, but it is approachable enough that it just looks, it's a cute design, it's well thought out. And then got some black up at the top, there's like black candle flame in the middle for Hocus Pocus, which is just take out the reference to the film, and it's just this really neat use of negative space and everything. And they're also not like drop shipping, they're not doing there's care put into this design, I think is what's really neat.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the top right, it's tough to see in this slide, but it's all Goofy movie stuff. And if there's one movie that is having resurgence after resurgence of fandom, it is a Goofy movie. And what they did like bumper stickers, which is such a neat, fun detail because of the whole road trip within the film. But there's also like a camp cup and the blue like motel keychain. And it's just these little things where it's like it could have the same design on all of them, and I'm sure it would do fine, but each one of these items has a different, unique design that is a callback to a fun reference from the film. And it's really good. It's really neat.
Are we able to buy that Possum Park bumper sticker? Because I want.
Yes, yes, you can.
Yeah.
They're having a sale today on accessories. So please go support local businesses, small businesses.
Great.
Where do you end up drawing the line, though, on stuff that's inspired by and things that, Disney, Universal, somebody's going to come at you and go, it's a little too close, and cease and desist, or, even try to sue you?
That's in my experience with it. If you go back to the slide for the truck, that our license plate frame is probably the most iffy on that. We kind of just had the Pizza Planet logo dropped on there, which is why it's not on sale anymore, at least not for me. But I think it depends. I think my opinion is that it's kind of the ask permission, or better to beg forgiveness than ask permission. But then there's a lot of items, we'll get into it a little later, where it's there's a difference between a bunch of different brands and creators and merch makers doing a different version of the same concept versus a lot of them doing the same exact thing. If you go on Etsy and look up Disneyland mountains, you're going to see 400 results, and it's all using the same art. I think if you, this isn't a hard or fast rule, but I think if you are making something that has already been made in the parks, it's kind of what are you getting out of it? Now, if you're enhancing it, if you're parroting it, if you're, that's the difference. I think.
I'd also say, I think when we'll touch on this with some of the pin makers, we'll talk about later. I think a lot of it comes down to limited runs as well, kind of limiting how the availability of some things, just in terms of adjusting adjusting that to try to avoid any attention. I would also say at a certain point, I think the bigger corporations are benefiting from this, and I think they see that. I mean, I think you can go all the way back to Lucasfilm encouraging fan films in the early 2000s, late 90s, and seeing that it's a benefit to their exposure, and they don't have to pay for it. I mean, I don't know, I don't work for them, but I feel it seems like whoever's in charge now sees the benefit, and I don't think that, and they see that there wouldn't be any benefit in being the bad guy for shutting down who's it's and what's it's, who has a really big following.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I've had a little experience in this, and I think it's when you're talking about like a printed material or a product, if you're like using logos and character designs, it feels like that's when you start getting into it. And if you're doing an interpretation of it, or you're taking a line from an attraction or a movie and making something out of it, where there was never really a logo in it, it was just named.
Sure.
I think you're in a different territory. But logos, like, you can't just put Walt Disney World on your shirt and call it a day. That's not really that should be shut down.
Yeah. I've had that experience. Just one letter change is not enough usually.
Yeah, very good. What do we got next?
So next, this one, I'm so excited about this one. So this is a keychain maker, and they're called House of Mouse Hotel. And their whole idea is that they have created this fictional hotel called House of Mouse Hotel. And what they sell are these keychains that are represented. They're supposed to be the keys to theme suites. So like in here, you see like the Sea Witch suite, the Rapunzel suite, the Tiana suite, the Briar Rose suite, and the Ping suite. And I think I actually discovered this through one what we're going to talk about later called Cursed Concepts, who they make pins. But the thing that I really love about this creator is that there's such an attention to detail in every aspect of what they're doing. You go on their website and it is done up as if it's like a hotel, and like, the About Me is the concierge, and you can make a membership, and it's so comprehensive in terms of trying to create an experience through the experience of buying an object. And I haven't personally bought anything. I am planning on buying one soon, but I've seen posts about the packages. And again, it's just the attention to detail. It's just the level of the decision to focus on immersion, that this is like a thing from a place as opposed to just a keychain, But also I just, you don't usually see a lot of, keychains done like this, just really focusing on just the details that are referential to like the movies that the characters are from and the different colors. And yeah, that's why this one's included.
I do have one question before we
Yeah.
go on to the next slide.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what is what I know that there's like influencer is an umbrella term, and then these 6 categories that you guys mapped out below it. But I'm always wondering like where this line is, like when you're creating merch, like where does parody fall off and it suddenly becomes copyright infringement? But in the same way, if you have someone who's running an Etsy store, like with these hotel keychains, where does that, is it a gray area where it's suddenly then you're transitioning to the same area like box lunch?
I think where like the line can kind of be drawn on that kind of stuff is, I don't think any of these merch makers are claiming that they are licensed, and they're like, some of them are in fact licensed. Like eventually they'll make that transition, but it is definitely a gray area. I just think people aren't saying like, this is official Disney stuff, like buy from me because it's specifically Disney stuff. It's usually to support like in the truck's case, it's supporting the cause.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty forward about that. But I don't think I don't think people are just stumbling onto the site and thinking it's Disney stuff. I think you have to like search for it.
Mm-hmm.
Is probably like it's the most like loosey goosey kind of way to describe it. But I don't.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I think something else that I think this is why we picked these particular brands as well. And I'm going to say brands because they've established their own, logo and their own name. It's like they're referential, and I think then they make an effort to make their own deal. And yeah, they're profiting off of the the imagery and the ideas from Disney. But I think I think that's where I draw the line, is like when someone is putting forth the effort to make a thing, and yeah, like what Marco said, like you're not claiming this is Disney. You know, you can. I think about, sometimes I'll be on eBay and people will like, be reselling items from that someone might have like bought through an SE dealer, and they might say it's from Disney, and that's not cool. That's not right. It's a Disney thing. It's a Disney idea, but I think that's the difference, is like there is an earnest attempt from the creator to like differentiate themselves, but pay tribute or do something interesting, something that Disney wouldn't do. That's the other thing, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like for me, it's a little, that's even grayer, because it's like literally the same graphic design, but it's like, I think that's it. That's what I would say to that anyway.
One thing that, if you look at the previous slide, I just love your like gerbil jug. You're drinking out of that.
Giant. You have no idea how much I need to be this hydrated. It's bad.
So like, if you go back to the previous slide, now go back to those previous slide. So like, Disney doesn't own Rapunzel. Like, these are old stories that have been around for a long time. That's the other thing, is like Disney is one of the companies in the entire world that takes stories that were public domain, puts their spin on it. So it's like public stories, Rapunzel, Sea Witch. These are pretty far away, and not like just taking, hey, this is the Little Mermaid from Disney's, and here's a logo of Disney. So I think what we were talking about earlier is like there is some leniency, and just of, like you said, they're on their way to potentially being licensed and fully doing it, and it's a gray area where it's like, how can you track this down? It's really hard. It's really hard and quite a momentous task. So take it on to the next thing. What do we got? What do we got over here in Adventures?
Oh, I love this. All right, so this is so this particular creator called the Adventurers Project. It's actually a dual project. I forgot their names. I feel so bad, but they make basically merchandise that is inspired by the more adventurous Disney parks, experiences. And this, this, as you can see, it varies from, it could vary from, Indiana Jones Adventure at Disneyland to the Imagination ride. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact name, or to Dinoland in Animal Kingdom. And again, this is just a small selection, but I focused on these items only because what grabbed me about these is there's a level of authenticity to the graphic design. This idea of creating these stickers, because these are all stickers except for the Jumbo poster. That's a poster. Like those travel stickers you'd find on, old, vintage travel trunks or whatever. And the idea that you take this place you can go to and actually give it a piece of merch that makes it feel even more real, right? Removed from the theme park, the idea that it's in a theme park and that it is a place you could go to. That's why I like it. And then again, the details, you have like the vintage shape, but these like rounded corners, the offset printing you'll see on Dinoland. There's like some edges that aren't quite meeting with the green of the trees around the Institute building. There's just something so charming about the simplicity of these items, and that's why I liked them. That's why I included them. Also, I just thought the hippopotamus was just hilarious. Again, like it's just like appreciation of the art form and just elevating it in a different way. That's why I included it. I think it's great. And they also do like prints and things as well, and lots of more stickers. And they do stickers from like different sorts of properties as well. But this was the stuff I really liked from theme parks.
All right. Next up.
The next step we got Made to Thrill. This is fun. There's a lot, like, soak it in. It's neat. Just thick lines, primary colors. And a lot of their collection is very much based around like the kinetic energy of a ride or an experience. And it's cool because a lot of what's neat with a lot of the theme park influencers and the theme park merch makers is there's more than one company that does it. So you've got Disney World, you even have references to the old World's Fair, and then you have like Back to the Future. Pour one out for Back to the Future, the ride. And it's just like, these are the items that you wish that they sold at the time. and there's this like just fun. I don't know. There's a thrillingness to it, and I think it's neat to see on this one specifically too. Like even the pull the yellow strap. Like you've seen the remove before flight keychains at every aviation museum probably that you've ever visited, and I think it's just this fun little applying that same idea to like taking an idea from the park and putting it on something that like it's a kind of a double-edged sword in its references. I get that reference kind of thing. But what's good with Made to Thrill, I think, is that they're very dedicated to a very clean, like you can the Tron coast. I think it's a Tron coast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the Tron pin patch is it's still 80s. It's still within that time period, but then it all works. It seems like it would be like the same designer through the years, I guess would be a good way. I have a little side window open right now, and I'm looking, and there's some fun ones where you can tell that the person who made this has like an interest in like automotive history, instead of like, I think they have a patch up here that looks like it's like American Motor Company, and it says Future World Speedway. It's fun to be free, kind of just the Autopia kind of deal. But if you didn't know Autopia, it would still sound like legitimate, like, oh, Future World Speedway, that's a cool name for a business and whatnot. But it's all their collections are like fuel and campus and what else do they have? Aviation, and they're all very good buzzwords, road trip collection and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's a good little mix of Universal and Disney.
Definitely. And I will say, with the pull the yellow strap, we actually have that, and we have it on our theme park bag. And people do pull it. People pull it all the time. They can't resist the call to action.
Pull for a surprise. Here's the surprise.
Yeah, stop it.
It's funny. I always have this like idea of like I see these cool patches, and I'm like, I'm gonna get that. Like I don't even know how to put that on my clothing. I don't even know how to do that.
Right.
But one day I'll get a jacket and just buy all this stuff and put it on it. That Institute of Technology is solid. That Tron coaster is solid.
Yeah.
All this is solid. That's really cool. Love it.
Yeah.
It'd be so funny. Put that on your car, like the pull your leather strap attached to your car. That'd be pretty.
My God. Yeah, totally.
Seatbelt.
But and that's the thing about these creators too, is the stuff they make inspires a level of joy in people that get it, right? It's like we're so in it to see someone like have an item that reflects back a thought. You're like, oh wow, I love this. This is great. Pull yellow strap. I've done that so many times. I'm doing it before they ask me. Why are they asking me to do? I'm already doing it. See me doing it. Leave me alone. All right, or whatever. It's great.
It's like it's kind of like the guests do it, enjoy it, but then like from an operator, I used to have to do it at Star Tours, so I'm kind of like, oh, maybe I don't want to have flashbacks to
a little PTSD.
No, totally.
Well, you're sitting on your seatbelt, sir. You cannot ride. Okay, get out.
Right.
So, and then there, pins. Everyone loves pins.
Oh, people love pins.
What do we got for pins?
This is Cursed Concepts. This was done by a friend of mine named Emily, and this whole thing with Cursed Concepts is that it is basically like I wrote this green spooky Disney princess pins, basically. And again, I think a lot like the House of Mouse Hotel, it's all about just establishing this one in particular isn't quite so much in the vein of like taking a theme park idea and like making more of it or whatever. This is more just kind of like making their own deal entirely, taking moments of like princesses in peril and they're green. That's another thing. It's all got to be green in some way, even like shade, green tones on top of blues or reds or whatever, and making just spooky princess stuff. And she's done a wonderful job. She's been so successful, and I've bought things from her as well. So I've gotten packages, and every single I think the thing that is important to keep in mind is like when you buy an item, and this is something that Cursed Concepts really gets, it's like the whole experience is an experience, right? You buy the thing and you open it up, and there's got the green tissue paper, and there's like a little envelope with a little handwritten note inside, and like the card backing, it's a print from a hand painted, image from the movie the pin design is taken from, and there's just a consistency and a level of care and love into this item, and I think that's why I like it. That's why I think it's interesting. It's like she's filling a gap that like Disney itself is just brushing against. Just like, you go to the New Orleans Square, you'll see like spooky stuff, and there's people that like it, and it's fine that they do, but like there's a certain level of elegance that's happening here that I think makes it appealing, and it really appeals to just this little group that she has, and they're like her. Well, basically, I'm just saying it's really good stuff. And this is just a small sample of the pins that she's made. It's incredible. All of the pins. It's so great. Yeah.
Well,
I think that's it.
One thing that's interesting too is that like a corporation like Disney cannot have like in their SKUs, like they can't have this niche stuff that they're only going to sell 100. They can't do that. That's like they need the stuff. They need the silly Disney shirt that says, my family's outing, I'm with Goofy or whatever. I would buy an I'm with Goofy shirt, but like they have to get the stuff that sells to the mass public. So like the more refined palette out there, or the niche palettes, this is serving that need.
Yeah, absolutely,
and fostering that community, like you were saying with Star Wars too. So these are really cool. They're kind of spooky, like you said. You can make almost anything into a product, right? Like what other, are there any, interesting examples out there of products you would never,
Yes.
think?
Yes, absolutely. Next slide, please. I love this. Okay. So Skelly Paper Company. Basically, if you've been on the Haunted Mansion holiday overlay of Haunted Mansion, and you're going through the attic, or probably some other places too, and you'll see those packages, and there's a picture of it, and you got this really bold and just like, really pretty bright colors of just these like slime drips and like weird skeleton, jack-o'-lantern faces. Somebody made this. Somebody made wrapping paper you can buy that looks like this stuff. So you can wrap gifts like the gifts in Haunted Mansion Holiday.
Good.
And I just adore it. It is... I don't know. Like, yeah, that's it. I mean, like, and what's great is that over the years they've expanded more into like party supplies. You can like buy little like you can buy like paper plates that have the pattern on it. It's just that's it. That's it. It's literally making something that you've seen that is literally an item in a ride and making it real. Like.
Well, and there's a use for it, It's like people. I think like if I got a gift wrapping this, that's high quality, That's so cool. And the wrapping, the bow, that's all. I'm sure very expensive and fancy, but the paper, that's really cool.
Yeah,
you're almost surprised that Disney didn't do that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it's like and it's also a thing of like you can't copy. I mean, can you copyright some? This looks very much inspired by, right? Which is really cool too. So
I wouldn't want to unwrap the gift.
I know, right?
That's great. So what comes next? So like we can go into different layers here of where there can be more and more things getting inspired, right?
Yeah, what I think is neat about the slide that's up right now is that there's different creators doing the same concept, or like their own version of the same thing, and it kind of goes both ways, where it's like, in Galaxy's Edge they have the Batu and Spira. I say Spira, it might be Spira, and it's the heavy metal gift card. It's like $100 minimum, and it is incredibly easy to lose. There's no real way to carry it around, and I think it's neat that there are people who have come up with different ways. Some are just like a 3D printed like silicone holder that you just wear like a necklace, and then some of them are a little more in world, just how it would fit on one of their belts, or something as simple as punching a hole in it to use it as a keychain. But I think that kind of environment has been kind of swirling around for years, so anytime something comes out, there's 20 people figuring out a way to like do something neat with it. And I think it's a really good time to be creative when it comes to theme parks. I don't think this is going to end. I don't think there's going to be like cease and desist on any of this stuff, because obviously you can't. But it's like it's fascinating seeing how different people will translate the same thing, the same use case, and it tells you a little bit about them. Do they want it to look like jewelry? Do they want it to look like it's part of their belt? Do they just want part of the keys?
So this
Definitely.
was a gift card that was shaped in a thing at Galaxy's Edge.
Yes.
I was way off.
What did you think it was?
I didn't know until it's great.
It's a Star Wars thing. That's what I got worried about. I mean, this is also reminding me of like how people were decorating their phone cases when Galaxy's Edge opened. Like because kit bashing, literal like iPhone cases, so it looks like something that belong in the universe. It's just fun. I think the thing about all of this that really grabs me is just the level of just fun, and just how much you can just see how much people are just playing with these ideas and just letting loose and just having fun with capitalism. I mean, just I think and the level of okay, all right, come on, get some words. Autonomy as a fan to see a brand and you're like, right, but what about this? And to feel that power of being able to make that, and then to think, well, maybe I'll sell that, and then people like it. Like, I think that's just so empowering these days. And I mean, it's been for a while. It's not like this is a terribly new thing, but the democratization of creating, and making and selling items, it's great. It's great to see what has come out of that and what continues to.
All right. Well, let's talk.
Yeah, I put this here because I wasn't sure when we would talk, but we talked the whole time, so no problem. But I will say, and Marco, you jump in here whenever you want. I'll stop because I can just make this the Natalie show if I want. If I just keep going. But I think the thing that always go back to, the thing that makes these items so interesting and what makes these creators so successful is that they're just doing what we do as themed entertainment creators. It's like you understand there's a level of detail that is needed to connect with your audience to make an authentic experience, right? Like that for me anyway, that's how I think about it, is like it's like you're looking for the nitty-gritty in an environment that doesn't convince you, but it definitely transports you to feel like you're in a real place, if that's the intent, obviously, of the design. And it's just fun to see that, it's fun to see that translates to the fans as well. It's like if you get it, you get it. And it's clear that you will by the things that you make, right? And I think that's just fun. I think that's really interesting and cool. And it, to me, I think about these creators and I think about what they do, and I think about like how rare, I guess so what am I trying to say? I think about haunts, right? Backyard haunts, neighborhood haunts, and like how that is like a very much of a go-to of like, that's the amateur themed experience. And I feel like these creators should be seen in the same level because they're doing the same amount of thought. They're doing the same amount of like art and design to make an experience for a guest of their shop, of, whatever. And yeah, I just think it's interesting. More than anything, I think I grabbed Marco and I was like, and I contacted you, Patrick, about this because I just thought not enough people were talking about this. Not enough people knew about these people. I mean, we all are fans more or less these days when it comes to like themed entertainment and we're working in the industry. Not everybody, but a lot of people are. And I think we're in those ecosystems too, but just to kind of bring it out of the fan and be like, hey, professionals, look at this. Isn't this cool?
Well, it's a huge talent pool too of people who are passionate and have great ideas. And like, speaking of that, like is there a directory, this is a question, to find more or all of them, every last one of the themed entertainment influencers and their products?
Yeah.
Find them.
Etsy, Instagram.
There's so many. Yeah,
there's so many. Yeah. I mean, I think I think what I would suggest is use what we've given and just see who they follow, right? Go on Instagram and see who they follow, and then just branch off from there, because, quality begats quality, game sees game or whatever, so I think that would be what I would recommend. But unfortunately there isn't just a directory that does that.
Got it. We're going to wrap up, but CJ, go ahead and throw all these up for just throw them up. So these are the ones that we've gone through today. So you have them, take a screen grab of the ones we at least talked about, and then I'm sure they're you can find them on Instagram as well.
Yes, they're all on Instagram.
So while we have this up, what would you say to those that are sitting there in their, their apartment or their house or their condo or their home or their couch, and they consider themselves creative and they just don't know what to do to take that first step? Marco, what's your words of advice? I mean, you built a car. That's pretty
well, I led the team that put it together, and what was neat with it is that it was all my friends, and every friend had talk to your friends. I don't have the graphic design background, but I was working with friends who I'd be like, does this work? And just having that little network of creative friends who can help you. A lot of our more recent merch on our shirts and stuff, with our little truck glyph that we use on the shirt and our icon and stuff, there's a good level of communication with that, where we're just do we do this? Do we try this? Is this too similar to something else? But just go after your ideas, I would say. As soon as it comes to you, just make it. Here, I'm going to run off, but for a split second, but I'll be back. Continue without me.
Yeah, I will say, in addition to that, I think it's important to recognize that your creativity is a gift, and that it will not steer you in the wrong direction more often than not. Correct. And I think it's important to look at what you like and think about why you like those things. Really write it down. I like Ghostbusters. Why do I like Ghostbusters? I like ghosts. I like the tech. I like how things are weathered. I like the humor, and then just by breaking down your interests and what you like in terms of movies and TV and theme park rides, it's that will guide you, I think, towards making things that are in that vein. I think you're gonna direct yourself and focus yourself in the direction of things that appeal to you. And I think for me, what showed me that first was the things that I was attracted to. I like spooky stuff. I like weird stuff. I like cartoons, and then Disnerland came around. It's who would have ever thought that would come out of all this? But it did. And you just got to follow it and not be worried about looking weird or doing something that no one will like. Because I think by following your bliss, you'll always enjoy what you're doing because you like it. And that's really all that matters.
That's great advice. Trevor, over to you. What do you have? What questions do you have?
What's the when you identify from your creativity the types of things that you want to make? Is Instagram just the proven best way, the number one way these days for these influencers to show their creations and to try to get some attention?
I think so, but I'm also 32, so I think in terms of items, yes, because definitely Instagram has pivoted themselves towards more of a marketplace than just strictly an image social media platform. I mean, I don't know, Marco, what do you think?
I think you're correct in that Instagram has really positioned itself to be a marketplace, and then by providing a link directly to your store through that service, it's a good, you can do video content on it. You can do and a lot of these brands, they'll do this fun mix of everything, where it's they're going to show you the process behind it. They're going to show you photos of the item, and then they'll show you people will even do fun themed videos based around it, where it's almost like a mini commercial.
Yeah.
And I would say that's probably the best platform at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would also add to that just briefly. It's an incredibly supportive, welcoming community. And I think if just by reaching out and messaging people and and showing what you want to do and buying their stuff and featuring their stuff in your story on Instagram and stuff like that, tagging people. It's all about the relationships you make. And that's, I think, how you also get people to find out about your stuff. If that's something that you really want, that's part of it. Like, you know, you've gotten past like, I like this, I want to sell it, which is fine. Yeah. I'd say that would be the next step, is just
how much time and energy do you then put into your audience engagement then? Like you start doing creativity and that's great, but then like, do you just find like, oh, I'm spending way too much time just like engaging with everybody and not enough time actually doing any creation?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a interesting balance where it's like, I've had people who are telling me like, you have to post every day, even if it's not saying anything. Yeah. And I've noticed that we've had more interaction and more engagement when the project was first starting out, before we even had merchandise, it was like every day it was like, oh, we're hinting that we're working on something. Oh, tomorrow we're hinting that we're doing a little bit more on that thing that I mentioned before. And you think that it would like entice people, but people, I think, people adapt to different things, and if you don't post anything for a month and then post something where you're like, for the past month we've been working on this, people go, oh, that's cool, that's why you were quiet for this long. So it's like the engagement algorithm really kind of gamifies a lot of this, where you'll see certain brands where they're posting the same image every day for a week, and if it works, it works. If it works for them, it works for them. On my level, tier, rung, I just kind of try to post at least once a week. Usually something will come up, but there's no like schedule.
Yeah.
We had a good question in the comments. Let's throw it up. Trevor, want to read it?
Yeah, what do we got here? Ta-da. From Zeus, let's see. Have you all noticed changes in business since the pandemic? Without DesignerCon, which I actually don't even know what that is, so I'd love to hear about that. Without DesignerCon, I find it hard to keep in touch with how things are moving in this space.
There is DesignerCon is actually I should look it up. But DesignerCon is a like convention expo where it's like artists it's basically a giant artist alley, but it's also licensed professionals. You'll have like Giant Robot there, the Hundreds will be there, like Funko had a huge booth. So it's this neat little mingling space where you can get like the pros and, you know, just creators mingling and just selling their stuff and just seeing what's out there. The change that's occurred with DesignerCon is, I think, just there's a lot of folks who their bread and butter was the con and expo circuit. And that's where you made a lot of sales and you got to meet a lot of people, and that isn't there anymore. And so a lot of things have moved online, both for better and for worse. I've seen some good like business plans where people are doing like a live online auction, and that only works if what you're making is hyper limited. I barely understand what NFTs are, so I'm not even going to touch on that. I don't know if we'll see theme park NFTs anytime soon, but there's an idea if you want to jump on that. Just give me a small cut of it. Marco Bongiorno. You
heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. But have you noticed any differences in like?
I think for me, I don't really sell that much merch. I think only because it's such a niche thing that I do sell, and mostly it's just like TeePublic stuff, like shirts and posters or pins. I think so. I can't speak to business, I can't speak to selling, but I can speak to engagement, and I can say that I had about a year hiatus in 2019, so I started back up in April of last year, and it has been probably one of the most engaged periods of time I've had with Disnerland, just in terms of like people commenting and liking things and, you know, reposting things. In that way, it's been good. And I think a lot of that just comes down to people are stuck and they are on their phones looking at stuff, you know, and I'm not going to say that's great, but I mean, I think it definitely leads to people looking for things that make them feel good. And, you know, Disney stuff is nice.
I think I think once things get better, I think it's going to be interesting seeing how conventions and expos update.
Yeah.
And like how they're going to come back. They're going to rise from the ashes like a phoenix, and things are going to be different. And I'm excited to see how that's going to go. But for now, I think like there's still little pockets of little marketplaces, both online and in person, that people can go to.
Definitely.
Yeah, right on. Have you seen any of the what would you call, I guess, closing of the loop? Anything that influences back to the parks? The best example I can think of is how there was someone who was doing the rose gold mini ears on their own, and then all of a sudden Disney like swooped in and totally stole their thunder after that was like a proven success.
I have a friend of mine who she does, I'm going to probably butcher her story, but she does her own like Mickey ears, but they're headbands. Mm-hmm. And one thing about that, one of the issues that she had with the headbands that were sold in the park is they pinch your head. Like you get like divots in your head from it. And, you know, sometimes you'll have like people with larger skulls, or, you know, the boyfriend wearing his girlfriend's ears as a joke, and, or, you know, and so on and so on. And she sourced her own like materials and stuff, and she has these headbands are like they don't feel loose, they feel broken in, and they're comfortable. They're not heavy, they're not hard plastic. And she has, I think it was this year or last year, she's collaborating with Disney products now. Like they're carrying some of her items, and she's kind of collaborating with them. So I think there are very rare cases of that happening. I wish it happened more, but I think it would just be, Disney would be inundated with ideas if that were the case. Other ideas of, see, I don't think Disney has done anything like some of the fashion brands where they're just like flat out ripping off other people. I mean, the rose gold example notwithstanding, but I can't think of any off the top of my head that are like, it's kind of a bummer that there isn't more of an open dialogue between that, but it would just be on such a scale that like I can't imagine how Disney would be able to sift through the noise.
Yeah. I definitely remember seeing like t-shirts inspired by, you know, designs that seem like something you'd see with like Who's It's and What's It's. You know, I mean, and I don't know if they were like direct ripoffs, but it's definitely like you go, you know, I remember at a certain point you go into World of Disney into the t-shirt section, you saw these like, you know, I'm So Fly t-shirt with Peter Pan silhouette in the middle. And they're like, that doesn't seem clever. That seems too clever for you, Disney. That doesn't. I mean, maybe they are. I don't want to say they're not, but like, you know, there's a certain, that's why I've seen that. But, you know, if any.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's it.
Well, it's interesting. In like in Walt Disney World, they have like the co-op marketplace, and they have kind of like these niche type deals. I'd love to see Disnerland have a shop. Let's get it going.
Damn. I mean, hey, that sounds great. I just need to find someone to make posters that aren't terrifying to make them. That's the problem, is that you know the algorithms in all these places are just like, well, that looks like Mickey Mouse. No, and I'm like, okay, fair. I get it.
It's a lot different. Yeah. No.
I don't know if these are too big of two topics to talk about, and Patrick, slow me down if I'm going crazy with it. But two things that I'm very curious about things like Dapper Day and the Disneyland social clubs.
Oh yeah.
And then separately, and like for me, like I know Disneyland Anaheim the best, so that's where a lot of my experience is based out of. So the other thing would be something like, I think this was much more of a thing in Anaheim than it was in Orlando, and again, specifically Disney, probably more than Universal. But the idea of creating Instagrammable moments, like the surge of special popcorn buckets, of seasonal churros, of these photo spots, all of that. Yeah. Any general commentary?
So just my general opinion, I think all of that is fine. I think the theme parks is just Disneyland, right? Disneyland is such a broad thing to experience as an individual. And I think to see people dressing up and to see people taking pictures in front of walls, that look nice, I think it's all just shifting trends of how people interact with stuff, right? And I think it's all valid. I mean, I think that can be seen, that could be a joke sometimes. Like everything's valid, but I think it is all, it's all valid to like how someone can experience and consume a themed environment, because it's literally a space, and a human is a human with their own ideas, and they're going to do what they want. And maybe they might be influenced by Instagram or whatever, but you know, I think it's great because it means people are still going to the parks.
I think too is like the popcorn buckets and all the merch. It's like I don't remember there being like big surges for merchandise at Disneyland, but also when I was younger, and there'd be like the once in that Tickle Me Elmo kind of thing with Disneyland, where it'd be like once every like 5 years it'd be this big thing and everyone would need it. And now those are coming like now that Disney is aware that people are they really like specific detailed things, like like the Cinderella carriage popcorn bucket or the Millennium Falcon popcorn bucket, where it's like these items, in addition to being maybe not fully fulfilling their function of being a popcorn container, they are a beautiful thing to hang on your wall. They're a really nice molded model. Like it's like a big toy. It's neat. Where it's like I'm looking at our notes, and there's a quote that I don't know if we mentioned it, where it's like there's a lot of stuff that Disney does where it's I've always wanted this thing, but I didn't know I needed it. And
real quick, case in point, the baby Simba popcorn bucket that is like molded to hold your hand up like you're Rafiki. I saw that and I'm like, that's next level. That's like, you gotta, what are things in Disney movies that you hold that have been held? And it's like that, I guess. Let's make Simba.
And then you try to put it on a table and it rolls off the table.
It just like falls
or like there. And it's funny because like if you put too much thought into it, it gets funny, where it's like, I think Knott's Berry Farm did like a Snoopy popcorn bucket, and you're like, oh, this is really cute, a Snoopy head. And you crack open the top of his head and you're eating popcorn out of it. You're like, wait a second. Oh no.
Right.
But it has to function as a popcorn bucket. Otherwise you're buying a empty plastic, you're buying a bucket. You're buying a bucket for $12. So it has to have that secondary function.
Oh
yeah, it's so good.
Yes.
So
oh my gosh. Good job. Oh my, see what I mean? Like there's just like, you want to be Rafiki. At some point you saw that movie. It's like, what would it be like to hold up Simba? It's like, there it is. And it holds popcorn, multifunctional lion. It's great.
If I may comment on the Walt Disney World market here, it's like,
sure,
there are a lot of influencers and people who go into the parks and they have their fancy outfits and they bound and they do this and they're that. And, the demographic that goes to Walt Disney World is a lot different. It's more people who are on a once a year vacation or once every few months if you're a really big fan or whatever the case may be. And so that idea of being able to be on Instagram and kind of live vicariously through those people that live in Orlando and make a living off of it, or, however that works out, that's huge. Like the little, the person or who's in, Philadelphia or in, Alabama or whatever, another Wisconsin, shout out to Wisconsin. And they get to go through and they say, oh, this is so cool. And like, they get excited for their next trip, and they see that wall and they want to go to the purple wall. I think walls was more of a Walt Disney World thing, if I do recall. We had the purple wall, which was where it started. Then Disney started like, they got all into it, right? Disney's doing huge influencer marketing, because they want people to come in the parks and extend the stay. And it's kind of like what you were saying earlier, Natalie. It's like the whole park experience is extended out into everywhere. It's in your house. You're gonna get a button on your shirt, and it's really all about spreading joy and remembering those magical memories, which is really fun.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. It's funny. I feel like for me, there was a certain point where like I've seen pictures of the Haunted Mansion and seen perch inspired by the Haunted Mansion more than actually riding the ride. So then one time at one visit, I rode it after a while and I was like, oh wow, yeah, it's a ride. It's like a really cool ride. There's a reason why we like this.
That's funny.
Yeah. All the ancillary experiences.
Well, any final thoughts, Marco and Natalie, before we kind of land the plane here?
Let's see. Checking the notes.
Yeah, I'll look at the notes too.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll just say real quick, Natalie, for Disnerland, I feel like every time I see those posts, I just get a laugh like I'm watching a bad lip reading video.
Oh yeah.
I'm like tears at times, just that funny. That good.
Thank you. Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it. See, that it makes it all worth it. And you're right, it is kind of like a bad lip reading sort of thing. Just
well, for you two, and then for anybody else who is would call himself an influencer or some version of a creator, I would say keep on doing this type of stuff, because I have a whole lot of fun with it personally. I got a T-shirt that I brought to Disney World for a trip that as soon as the events happened, childless millennial, and the conversation starter that T-shirt is awesome.
Yeah, I bet.
So please, everyone, keep doing that.
The market moves so fast. As soon as like for better or for worse, as Diz Twitter moves incredibly quickly.
Yeah.
And as soon as a buzz phrase like that happens, it's like, phew, it's on 20 shirts. It's crazy. And it's a neat playground to play in. Yeah. I think there's a sandbox, there's a slide, there's one of those little fireman poles, and there's a swing set. Like there's all different ways you can experience it. And it's fun to be in.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It was a really great discussion. Don't go anywhere quite yet. Well, for Natalie and Marco, because we'll be seeing you in the green room. Folks, we're going to get through these plugs.
Walls are closing in.
We're on TikTok, folks, Facebook, Instagram. I'm sure you can find all these folks there with Disnerland and the Pizza Planet Trek. You have a new follower on some of those channels. I was kind of doing that on the background. We also have a Slack channel, folks, for themed entertainment folks. If you are wanting to talk with other people in the industry, we have over 177 people on the Slack channel. It's completely open. People are going in here and doing virtual meet and greets and helping everybody out, which is super cool. Resume feedback, announcements in the industry, some business, all sorts of good stuff, and jobs. So we're posting jobs pretty frequently that we find out. There's CJ right there. So to get there, just go to themedexperiencetv.com, and we'll put the link somewhere. We'll put in the comments, and it's a great community. But with that, we'll see everybody. Actually, I won't see everybody next week. I'm having my second dose of the Pfizer vaccine, and in preparation for that, I am taking the night off most likely. But we have Adam Sandy from Zamperla coming on to talk about roller coasters and his journey, which is super cool. This is a really fun show. It's really fun. Like, I was just thinking in my head, like I have a bunch of like niche shirts, like I'm at capacity today, which was like a meme from Agnes, right, that opened up. So yeah, it's all good. But thank you so much for visiting. Stop by. We'll come back anytime. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you for having us.
It was great.
Awesome.
All right. Bye, everybody.